No More StinkyMonkeys.com production. The first thing I wondered was, would I cry? I don't cry often, and I never cry at happy moments. But this was so momentous, a thrilling, defining moment in our country's history. But it didn't happen. Election Day, November 4th, 2008, came and went, and while I was excited, there were no tears had. But then again, I watched very little coverage of the event. The returns were coming in too excruciatingly slow. At one point, McCain and Obama were virtually neck and neck. I stopped watching and switched my TV over to TiVo to catch up on old episodes of Sons of Anarchy and The Shield. When my programs ended at around 11:40, I switched back to live TV to hear Katie Couric announce that Barack Obama was going to be the first black president in our nation's history. The dream had come true. All my adult life, from the time I was in college, I had hoped that a day would come when America could rise from the ashes of genocide and oppression and be one day indivisible. Voting a black person into the White House is about as defining a moment as you could ever wish for. And to have a person that shares your passion and views for this country is even more remarkable. I didn't campaign or vote for Obama because he was black. Several black people have run for president before, but I never took them seriously. No. Obama was my man because he was the best candidate out there. And my second favorite, Joe Biden, was going to be his vice president, which is historical in its own way, since Biden is the first Catholic vice president in our nation's history. So after hearing the expected but still thrilling announcement, I turned the TV off and went into my den. I wanted to see what was being said among real people in the online community, but it wasn't getting much feedback. So I decided to do something else. At the age of 42, I felt inspired to read for the first time 4 of the greatest documents in our nation's history: the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Gettysburg Address, and the text of the I Have a Dream speech. I'm glad I waited because my reading skills would be no match for these documents even 10 years ago. Other than their simple brilliance, I could not believe how short they were. In an era where even instruction on using a cell phone is 45 pages long, I cannot believe that statements that defined a nation could be put together in a few short paragraphs. Shakespeare said in Hamlet, "Brevity is the soul of wit," which means intelligent speech and writing should aim at using few words. Obviously, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Dr. King followed these sentiments. Reading them, I felt closer to the authors than I ever had before. Reading them on this night made the words come alive for me in a way a 7th grade classroom never could. As an American, reading them at such a late date, it reminded me of my fellow New Yorkers who never think to visit the tops of the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and yes, even the World Trade Center. As a tourist in my own city, I have reached the tops of all those buildings and feel proud to have read all the freedom documents as well. Of the 4, I have to say that Martin Luther King's speech is the most accessible and heartfelt. He's not just talking about freeing the unfree, but being freed. As they say in action movies, this time it's personal. If he was alive, what would he have thought on this 11/4/08? If he had lived, would we have seen 40 years go by before a black person was even seriously considered for the presidency? We'll never know, but his widow, Coretta Scott King, did tell their daughter that Obama might be that person after she heard him speak at the 2004 Democratic Convention. Like a cheerleader pyramid at a basketball game, so many great black people have laid the foundation for Obama to achieve this goal. From Frederick Douglass to boxer Jack Johnson, from Booker T. Washington to Jackie Robinson, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Dr. King, Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby, and Denzel Washington. All these people used their strength and dignity, their intelligence and self-respect to uplift the race and clear the way through American minds and hearts for a black man to rise to the most powerful position in the land, indeed even the world. November 4th was like another Independence Day, a day we could finally be free of bigotry and hate, a day we could show the world that we are indeed worthy of the ideals that we started but never truly attained before. While 232 years ago have gone by since we announced our freedom and proclaimed that all men are created equal, much of the rest of the industrialized world has rushed past us in attaining these ideals. In Western Europe, a poll of their citizenry showed that in many countries Obama would have won 80% of the vote, while in America he won only 52%. There is still work to do, or maybe just time to pass. Young America, especially young white America, voted overwhelmingly for Obama, while white older Americans voted for McCain. Between McCain's unsteady candidacy and his choice for Palin, the vote should never have been this close. But some people are stuck in their ways, and maybe in the future an overwhelming majority will not judge the color of the skin, but the content of the character. Finally, Thursday night, while my wife was taking her evening bath, I switched from live TV to TiVo and finished watching Katie Couric's election coverage. Within a couple of minutes, the cameras turned to Grant Park in Chicago, where Obama would be making his acceptance speech. I called out, "Bob, you remember that hotel we stayed in when we visited Warner in Chicago?" "Yeah," she said. "Remember the park across the street from the hotel?" "Yeah." "Well, you know, that's where Obama is making his speech from." A beautiful place. A park sort of like Central Park, but with a view of Lake Michigan. And imagine this. A senator from the state where Abraham Lincoln was born was going to give his acceptance speech in a park named after the man who won the Civil War and freed the slaves. How perfect a setting. I sat and watched the speech and saw the huge emotional crowd, and having been to things like the Pope's Mass in Central Park, I know that even if you can't see the stage as well as you can on TV, it is way more exciting to just be there. His speech was very good, as they always are, and he hit all the right points, but then he said this election was about you, about people who love this great country and want to live up to its high values, how we should be leading the world again in all areas, but most of all in hope for the future. He said, and I quote, "And to all those who have wondered if America's beacon still burns as bright, tonight we prove once more that the true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals, democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope." And at this point, I started having tears run down my face. Few at first, but they started coming down faster and heavier as the speech went on. Crying over a political speech? I rarely even watch these things. Maybe the last time was 1984 when Reagan got into office, gave his speech. But for 20 years we have suffered through mediocre leadership, and the country has run aground because of it. There are no more Clintons and Bushes to deal with, thank God. The country is not just getting a fresh coat of paint and new rugs. We're going to have to rebuild its infrastructure and go in a whole new direction. There is so much work to do to regain our greatness, and it will certainly take way more than 4 years to complete it. But at least the new generation sees the problems at hand and was not too cynical to say we can't try and fix them. Industry, energy independence, the environment, education, and even national security are all going to have to be revamped, and we will need to perform national service and sacrifice in a way probably not since World War II. But people who put their faith in Obama feel he is the man for the job and trust him enough to work with him. Let's hope that November 4th was not just a Pyrrhic victory, but a beginning of a whole new era in American politics. Not just for black people, but for all people, and that we too can become a new greatest generation. Ciao from the Freditor.